Kentucky GOP bill decriminalizes the use of deadly force against the unhoused. So let's look at this story. Come on. It can't be as crazy as it sounds, right?
Well, first of all, aren't they allowed to use deadly force against whoever the hell they want if
Right.
they feel in danger? I thought they were.
Republican lawmakers in Kentucky introduced a bill last Tuesday that would criminalize homeless encampments and expand the state's stand your ground law to allow property owners to confront unhoused people with a gun. So even though they're outside, you could pretend that they're inside your house and use a gun.
Well, if they're camping out, so is this like the Portland thing where people are camping out on people's lawns? Did you see that?
I did see that.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't wait.
Again, I don't want to
camp out on my goddamn lawn. I probably wouldn't wait for a law. I'd handle it. Maybe not with a gun, but they'd be gone.
Well, I don't want to demonize the homeless people because the government could fix this problem. They could provide housing for these people easily. We could we could support the entire government of Ukraine to the tune of $150 billion or whatever we've sent there so far.
This is like making you pump your own gas.
So they could totally take care of these people. The government chooses not to. Homelessness is a policy decision, and they want you to be angry at the homeless person instead of the people with power and money to fix it. They want us fighting each other. They want you to be on edge, just like Tucker Carlson talked about when he came on this show. They want you to have to step over a homeless person to get inside a convenience store where all the products are locked up behind glass, and then when you leave, you have a crackhead screaming in your face till you get to your car, so you feel scared and on edge, and you beg for an authoritarian solution to this.
Or you just leave San Francisco.
But it's everywhere, Kurt. It's everywhere.
Well,
there's homeless people right down the street from our house.
You know how crazy this is? Because Kentucky, I mean, how much could it cost to live in Kentucky, really, that they couldn't house them? Mississippi, the lowest.
So this is their
lowest
answer.
Homelessness in the country.
That's right.
Because they just build houses. Because you can't do that in Kentucky.
Mississippi. And why did you think Mississippi did that? Why did they think that Mississippi gave the homeless housing? Because their state is so shitty they couldn't afford one more problem.
But that's what I don't get. Like Kentucky, I haven't heard of mass migration to the Kentucky.
Fact, if Mississippi can do it, it shows you that they can do it everywhere, and especially in a rich state like California, who just a few years ago was bragging. The governor was bragging we had a $40 billion surplus.
You know what? Here's my advice: Wisdom of Solomon. Once again, invite the president of China to Kentucky.
That's right. That's what they should do. So instead, they're doing this. The bill, dubbed as the Safer Kentucky Act, already has received more than 45 Republicans. So you guys can't come up with a better solution to this problem? Like, this is their big idea. Hey, we'll just let property owners shoot people.
And what's the
you
property?
Can't? Why wouldn't you put some money behind fixing this problem?
Okay, so here's my question: Is the property? Is it like you own like a field somewhere that you were going to build on at some point, or is it like that, like I said, that Portland thing where people are going on your lawn? I wouldn't have no meth head on my lawn. That happened to you? I mean, look,
so it's
I don't own a gun, but you might get hit with an object. I can tell you that.
So I'm just ashamed that this, but Kurt, I hear you. I understand that when you have a situation like that,
what if I got kids or my wife?
You got to do something about it. But this is they want you to turn to violence against a homeless person. That's what they want.
They force me to do it. That means like that's forcing the issue. If you're not going to do anything, then they're forcing.
Well, they're not
going
to do anything. This is their big idea. They want you to have to take physical violence into your own hands. And so what
are the taxes for? Then?
So exactly.
The cops or somebody handle this? That you pay taxes for this?
Instead of them, exactly. And so instead of us putting pressure on our lawmakers to fix, I don't understand. There isn't a politician in the country that even as they're on their platform when they're running for office has a solution to the homelessness problem. They don't even see it as an issue to address.
Rick Overton.
What is Joe Biden's answer to homelessness? He doesn't even address it. He doesn't even talk about it.
Overton just texted me. That's the new Veterans Outreach Program.
Yeah, right?
Because who's homeless in Kentucky? It probably is veterans.
It probably is. Here we go. I'm just ashamed that this bill even came into fruition, and I'm asking people to call their legislators and say no. How about you call your legislators and say, come up with a real solution to this? Why aren't there The proposed legislation grants cities the authority to designate specific areas for unhoused individuals. Okay, well, that's one little baby solution. The legislation grants cities the authority to designate specific areas for unhoused, so we can build skid rows now legally. That's what they're saying. So if individuals are found outside of the designated area residing in a tent, hut, temporary shelter, or vehicle with the intention to sleep, they may face misdemeanor charges leading to so they will put homeless people in jail, which in California costs about $100,000 a year per person. Yeah, but they won't just give them an apartment, which would probably cost somewhere around $30,000 a year.
I mean, a tiny house don't cost that much money,
right? Or a tiny house. Get them. This is again. We only have a hammer. We have no other solutions except a hammer. They're going to put them in prison for 90 days. How much would that cost? How much would that cost to imprison someone for 90 days? Why don't you take that money and get them housing for 90 days?
Because that's communism.
Telling someone that they cannot sleep in their car or in an encampment does not end homelessness. Certainly taking money away from evidence-based successful housing programs does not end homelessness, said Catherine Magini, Director of Communications for the Louisville-based advocacy group Coalition for the Homeless. I can't believe that the Coalitions for Homeless can't make this an election issue ever, because it never is. The bill also gives people the ability to justify use of defensive force upon an unhoused person in instances of criminal trespass, including unlawful camping on an owner's property. I know some people who have had a hard time with people camping in their backyard. That's not smart.
Wait, say that again. What did you just say?
I know people who had homeless people camping in like their backyards and stuff like that. Yeah, and on their property in Venice Beach. I've had people tell me that.
Oh yeah, Venice Beach.
This would allow property owners to use deadly force against. Again, this isn't the solution. Without facing, so that you could use deadly force against people who are camping in your backyard. Without facing criminal consequences. So I have had people tell me they call the cops and the cops don't do anything.
There in New York, a friend of mine, people set up a nice little fentanyl thing outside his apartment. So you got to walk. That's the thing. It's like when you live in some area where you got like, especially if somebody's mentally ill running around. Before I dated my girlfriend, she got chased. So, and again, there's no politician with, hey, let's build mental health hospitals for people.
Okay, here's this.
Let's fund mental health hospitals. Because obviously,
there isn't, obviously.
There's nobody. They want us to start shooting each other.
Here's this piece of info. California, New York, Florida, and Washington had the most homeless people in 2022. According to the annual Homeless Assessment Report, the 4 states accounted for more than half of the nation's homeless population, with 30% of the total living in California.
Oh, by the way,
way to go, Gavin Newsom.
Way to go, Gavin. Let's make that guy president.
Hold on. There's an element of bullshit this, because they didn't say you can use. That's a kind of deceptive way. They decriminalized deadly force. What they say is you can use reasonable force to get somebody. Now that's vague, but that don't automatically mean you could just execute people. I'm sure you'd be like, hey, get off my land. I don't think. First of all, Kentucky was already a get off my land place.
Well, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, it doesn't automatically mean you could kill. It means if someone attacks you.
So this is what's crazy. This is what's even crazier almost. The proposed legislation also includes a range of additional criminal charges, such as the introduction of the 3-strike law targeting repeat violent felony offenders. Again, so if you're willing to spend money to lock these people up, which costs vastly more money than to provide housing for them, why wouldn't you save that money and just provide housing for these people and give them mental health, which is vastly cheaper than locking someone up in a prison? You're willing to spend the money on prisons. Why? Because there's a prison lobby. That's probably why. And I guess there aren't any real estate developers that want to develop a housing for homeless people. I guess that's it. I guess there's no money in it.
Why wouldn't they put any money into it? Is it all in the doctor's incentive program?
Because my theory, Kurt, is that they want us to have homeless people. They want us to be on edge. They want us to be begging for authoritarian solutions to these problems.
Yeah, right.
It also proposes heightened penalties for fentanyl distribution leading to an overdose, classified fleeing. So again, their whole solution is lock these people up, which is really expensive. These increased criminal charges will enable. So you don't want money for drug rehabilitation, mental health, or housing, but you do want more money for prisons because that's all this sounds like.
Heightened penalties for fentanyl distribution. Isn't that a prescription drug from from Big Pharma that once again has, like, that cartel never has to pay a price for these things?
These increased criminal charges will inevitably result in additional incarcerations in overcrowded prisons. In a 2021 analysis by the Prison Policy Initiative found that if Kentucky were a country, it would have the 7th highest incarceration rate in the world as a result of criminal policy decisions. Wow. Moreover, a study by the Vera Institute of Justice found that Kentucky's jail and prison rates more than tripled from 1985 to 2018 because of the state's dependence on criminalization as a means to address issues such as poverty, homelessness, and addiction. Again, right, you turn addicts into criminals and then you throw them in prison, which costs way more than to treat them.
Well, so you got, like, whoever, the real tippy top of society that wants that, how you said.
Yeah.
Then you've got, like, the medium and, like, dumbass thing where they're like, yeah, the Bible. Like, they have some stupid... Like, yeah, you got tough love. Yeah, I don't know, it's not even tough love, but you know what I'm saying? Like, don't coddle them by solving a problem.
So this is how they're solving the problem, by making every problem into a criminal problem. So you make addicts into criminals, you make mentally ill people into criminals, and you make people who are homeless into criminals.
And then when they're in prison, they're legally slaves.
Yeah.
We only got rid of that to make sure that you could still own slaves as long as they're in prison.
So by the end of April, there were 21,000 people in jail, and an additional 9,835 people were incarcerated in state prisons. It's easier to campaign on being tough on people. Let's clean up our streets and lock these people up, Whitney Westerfield, the Republican chair of the Kentucky Senate Judiciary Committee, said in September. It's far more difficult to do the hard work of recovery and of building people back up. Yes, that's right.
Mississippi could do it.
Mississippi could do it.
Let me guess. Did they not say you have to be sober to live in your tiny house, and that's why it's not a problem? Because that's kind of a stupid...
So on Tuesday, various advocacy groups held a press conference condemning the bill. We cannot continue to incarcerate everyone. It is purely remote emotional response. Yes, we should only incarcerate people for long periods of time when we are terrified of the violent acts they might commit, not because we are angry that they're making our lives inconvenient and have a mental health problem like addiction.
Okay, addiction is not just going to make your life inconvenient. You're going to get attacked, you're going to get robbed, you're going to get your shit broken into.
Right.
Addicts, honestly, every bad neighborhood, I live in quite a few hood-ass neighborhoods. I wasn't afraid of the gangs or the dealers on the block. I was afraid of junkies. That's who you got to watch out for, because they're desperate.
And so
crazy.
They should treat them. They should build mental health facilities. They should treat drug.
How about this?
And then sentence them to drug rehab.
Build a shitty house that they got to live in, and let them be high in there.
Right.
Then ruin the house, and then they'll die in there, and then another person will take, because that's what they do with no house. Right. Somebody goes in the same spot where somebody just died.
That's right.
So even that, which I'm not saying that's a good solution, is better than this.
So this guy says Kentucky is attempting to legalize the use of deadly force against homeless people for doing things like unlawful camping. This is what Americans have to face once their multiple low-income jobs are not enough to pay for housing.
I hate the spin of this.
It's
like, oh, they're trying to legalize deadly force. That's not, they're trying to shirk their responsibility of handling it.
That's right.
It's not necessarily deadly force. How do you get somebody off of your lawn when the government's not, how are you supposed to do that? Especially in Kentucky. I thought that's like, you can shoot somebody for coming near your whiskey still.
But anyway, okay, again, this is a policy choice to have these problems and to have us turn on each other. These are policy decisions, and where do they make those decisions? They make them in the state capitol, and they make them in Congress. And when Congress gets together for a session, do you think they're doing the bidding of the homeless, the mentally ill, and the addicted, and the workers? Or do you think that the session of Congress is doing a bidding of the military-industrial complex and the handful of billionaires who own our media? That's exactly what a session of Congress is not there for you or your interests. No matter who you fucking vote for in Congress, they're there to screw you, and that's including AOC, Rashid Tlaib, Jamal Bowman, Cory Bush, all of those people. They're there to screw you, and they're doing it because none of them give a fuck about this problem, as none of them have a solution or even proposing solutions to do anything about it.
If you
they're going to tell you to vote for Joe Biden, who's making sure we have an open border, lower our standard of living, create problems in cities that are, and then won't fund the cities to take care of the immigrants that come. This is coming again from the top down, from the billionaire class that run the entire world. They're not only doing it in the United States, they're doing this in Europe too. They're doing this in Ireland. They're doing this. We've seen this all across the world now. This is what they're doing in France. They're doing this everywhere.
Wait, hold
Kurt.
on. The people coming in illegally, bum rushing the border, they'll pay a lot of money to put them up in your kid's school or in a nice hotel.
That's right.
But these junkies here, the ones that are from here, right? No, put them in jail.
Put them in jail.
Everybody coming illegally. Right this way.
Yep.
Hey, could they stay at your house? Imagine they're asking people to keep illegal immigrants in their house. You could shoot a homeless American for trespassing on your. That's your lead.
This is what happens when you're ruled by criminals. This is what.
Who still believes in this shit?
This country is over, and unless we have a real revolution, and we have to follow the lead of the truckers in Canada, and we have to follow the lead of Christian Smalls on Staten Island, we have to join together. We have to join together with Bernie Sanders voters and Trumpers and Nikki Haley voters. We have to join together with Joe Biden voters. Everybody has to come together to overthrow this government, because only a revolution will save us. That's how fucked up it is right now. You think voting for Joe Biden is any materially better than voting for anybody else, including Donald Trump? You are wrong. Joe Biden is a criminal of the highest order, and the people around him are criminalizing anybody who goes up against their establishment, whether it's Stop Cop City protesters or the January 6th protesters. Entire political movements they are making criminalized, and they're throwing people in jail. And they're doing propaganda on you because Barack Obama got rid of the law that says that the CIA and the FBI can't do propaganda on Americans. They're doing that. And so this is all being manufactured, just like the Black Lives Matters were manufactured by the FBI and the CIA and the deep state. And that was to make everyone feel on edge and afraid to vote for Donald Trump. And that's what that was all about. And just like the January 6th is to make sure that he could never run again, just like they're doing to Bolsonaro in Brazil. The same thing. And then they're doing to Stop Cop City. So if you think they're only going to do it to MAGA and they're only going to do it to Joe Biden, to Donald Trump, they're doing it to Black Gurus. They're doing it to, how do you say it?
Black Uhuru is the group that
that's
they
right.
pin that
socialists,
bullshit.
Black socialists. They said they were working with Putin and Russia.
They might be an I Hate White People club. I don't give a shit. We're not puppets of Russia.
That's right.
They can say whatever the fuck they want.
And so if you don't think they'll do, that's why I was so upset when Cornel West came on the show and pretended that fascism wasn't already in America and that somehow it would come to America if we voted for Trump. It's been here for quite a while, but people who live in ivory towers don't feel it, and they're part of the shit lib class, so they don't. So that's why he came on the show.
It's not fascism unless a shitlib gets fired from their security job. Security.
That's right. It's only fascism when someone gets fired for plagiarism, and they pretend it's about skin color.
Or when you don't let a dildo book into third grade.
Or you don't let a dildo book into a third grade. That's right. Then it's fascism. So this is a global game being played. There are no countries. There are only companies in the international transfer of dollars, and the ruling class wants you to feel on edge and afraid. And they want to criminalize anybody who stands up against them. And this all started with Occupy Wall Street. And so when Occupy Wall Street happened, you saw that the establishment shit their pants, and they immediately turned Americans against other Americans.
Yeah, culture
because
war.
Occupy Wall Street was people from the left, right, and the center coming together to oppose their oligarchy, and they immediately tried to divide and conquer. And the way they did that was they told half the people that Occupy Wall Street that the other half were white supremacists and Nazis. and that a bunch of them hated gay people, and all this shit was
Blue hair dye was somehow involved.
Was completely manufactured to keep us fighting about things that didn't have to do with Occupy Wall Street's concerns. And so that's what we've been fighting over ever since. Look at the studies that they've done about the mentions of racism and white supremacy in the New York Times and the Washington Post immediately after Occupy Wall Street. It's skyrocketed. Even though racism has been going down in America and we elected a black president twice, overwhelmingly, the mentions of white supremacy and racism have skyrocketed.
That's because there's a lot more black and brown white supremacists now.
And they'll call anybody a white supremacist. They called Cornel West a fucking white supremacist. They called who's that guy who ran for governor here? Larry Elder. They call him. It doesn't matter if you're black.
Vivek is a white supremacist.
Vivek also. They'll call anybody a white supremacist. That's because that's the only tool they have.
They'll write an Atlantic piece all about how this is a real thing.
So this is the game that's being played, and people need to wake up to this game. And as soon as you go down the identity politics road, and that's why I was so hard on Cornel West when he came on this show, because he ought to know better. And if he didn't know better, shame on him. But he did know better. And he just doesn't have the courage to say what's really happening in America. He doesn't have the courage to call out the liberal class the way he ought to. And he wants to pretend that and people like him, and I don't want to make it about Cornel West, but he wants to make that just like people like him in his liberal ivory tower class want you to be afraid of your neighbor. They want you to blame your neighbors the fascists. You got to be afraid of MAGA and these political movements. No, you got to be afraid of the handful of billionaires that control the deep state, the FBI, the CIA, and every session of Congress that is working against you. That's who we need to, and we need to overthrow the goddamn government. Literally, we need to do it. I say do it peacefully, and it can be done. And we had to
voting for Trump. That is the
follow. They can't have Brexit. They can't have Trump voting. They can't have any of that. And the way they do this is control us is through narrative control and getting us to hate each other and be afraid of each other and don't fall for it. And that's been the message of the Jimmy Dore show for a long time, that the left and the right, we are not each other's enemies. We have more in common than it divides us, and we share a common enemy, and it's the same common enemy we had at Occupy Wall Street. It's the billionaire class that have been screwing us for the last 50 or 60 years. You don't live in a democracy. Democracy hasn't been on the ballot since, 1960. You live in an oligarchy, and that was proven over a decade ago by the Princeton study. You know, democracy's not on the ballot. Liberty's not on the ballot. There is no ballot. The ballot has been hand chosen by a couple of billionaires who run everything. And that's a fucking fact. And so it's time for everybody to quit their pettiness and their stupid fights over bathrooms.
Stop culture wars.
Stop your culture.
Because you don't have a culture.
Stop your white supremacy. You got no culture. Stop your screaming about white supremacy and racism and Nazis. There's real Nazis running things, and they're called the WEF, and they're called the billionaire class. And they have complete control. You live in a security state. Already, every phone call, text, and email you send is already being collected by the government. They'll already can call you a terrorist and throw you in jail with indefinite detention. We're living on a Liberty View from somewhere around the 1100s in this country. So the idea that somehow fascism might come to this country is a fucking joke.
Hey, remember when the Islamic terror, and I remember these bastards thought they could tell us what we could say and if we could draw a guy. Remember that?
Yeah, remember that?
They were going to press us. They were going to put a burqa on the women and what? They have more freedom to express themselves than us now.
That's right.
There's way more forbidden Salman Rushdie stab me words.
Well, look what they
than
did.
Any Arab country here.
Look at what they're doing to the. I can't express.
Someone try to stab Dave Chappelle like you Salman Rushdie.
Yeah. Look what they're doing. That's right.
With a gun knife.
Yeah. Look what they're doing to the Stop Cop City protesters. They're literally criminalizing them because they're opposing the police state. And they're using the same RICO statute, the same grand jury they're using to go after Trump and MAGA. They're using to go after those people. When are people going to wake up? Now, Cornel West pretended he didn't get that and he was somehow dumber than me, which was a real embarrassment to him and his reputation. It wasn't an embarrassment to me. And I hope he makes up for it.
Oh, Fannie Wilson's also using RICO charges on that Stop Cop City.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're happy about this, her affairs blowing up the Trump thing, because she sounds like she sucks. She sounds like she's a real sack of shit.
Okay, well, I made my speech. I hope everybody gets it. That's the message of this. Your enemy is not your neighbor. Your enemy is being crushed by the same oligarchy that you're being crushed by, and they want you to blame it on your neighbor and be afraid of your neighbor and beg for authoritarianism. They could fix homelessness at the snap of a finger. They can make sure you have health care at the snap of a finger. They make sure everybody in Israel has health care. They make sure everybody in Ukraine has health care. They just won't give you health care because then they can't control you. Because then you could actually leave a job. You could actually organize. You could actually oppose those people without fear of losing your health care. That's why they'll never give it to you. And so that's why we need to get smart, like the truckers, and we need to have farmers and truckers and everybody take their vehicles, go to D.C., shut that fucking place down and overthrow the government. That's what we need. Okay. Now
can I just tell you a step you could take? Come see me this weekend in Nashville at Zany's.
Okay.
That's the important first step to everything.
And we'll be in Palmdale, California this Sunday? This Sunday? We'll be in Palmdale, California. Come see us. Then we're going to go to Omaha, Nebraska, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon. You're not going to stick around for the thing? What? Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Philadelphia. You don't have to stick around. Now we're going to go to our locals. Hey, come see us do a live stand-up show. We're going to be in Palmdale, California, Omaha, Nebraska, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Michigan, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Philadelphia, Boston, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets, and we're adding a second show in London.